Thank you for tuning in to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast, where co-hosts Matt Bucher and Marty Wheeler interview motocross and off-road racing and riding icons to capture their stories and experiences for you. So buckle up those helmets, grab a handful of throttle, and get ready to listen to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. Before we get started with tonight's podcast, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. That way you stay up to date with all of our new episodes.
I want to thank my family for all their hard work, our staff, and most importantly, I want to thank our fans and riders. Please visit mxexpress.net.
We also want to show some love for a local nonprofit off-road club, the Toledo Trail Riders, and visit their website at toledotrailriders.org.
Matt, aren't we forgetting one?
Yes, please visit paulschlegelmovie.com to see how you can help Paul get his stories told in a documentary film for the whole world to enjoy forever.
I think we're done.
Okay, Marty, let's get after it. Now, it's on to the episode. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody. This is episode number 3 of the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Bucher, and I'm also joined by Marty Wheeler. And tonight we have Paul and Jeff Walker from Sylvania, Ohio. Thank you, boys, for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
And I know Marty wanted to kind of start the show off with a little personal thanks. And Marty, I'm going to get the show handed off to you right away.
All right. Yeah, get me out of the way and move on. Well, a couple of things. It's definitely an honor and a privilege that we have both you guys on. You know, it's great to have someone that's got some national background racing under his belt, and also his son with him. So it's a pretty cool deal, right?
Yeah,
No, I heard through the grapevine today that I think Doc is, and I hope you don't mind me calling you Doc. I always, for some reason, it should be Dr. Walker, but I always think of Doc. But I heard today something about some national stuff, that you had raced some national races and had done pretty well. So
I never turned pro. I did amateur nationals, but I never got my pro license. So
and we heard you did really well in that. So
yeah, and I didn't win anything, but I held my own. Yeah, we this was back in 79, 80, and 81. The amateur nationals were on a rotating kind of a circuit then. 82 is when it ended up at Loretta Lynn's. But in 79, it was out at the Hangtown out in Plymouth, California, the old Hangtown. And I got 10th overall in the open class that year. And then the following year, they moved it to Millville, Minnesota. And I crashed and separated my shoulder the first moto. And it was a 4-moto format. We did 2 30-minute motos on Saturday, 2 30-minute motos on Sunday. So I rode all 4 motos with a separated shoulder. I ended up 18th, so that's my excuse for that year. And finally, the third year. What's that?
What year was that, Paul?
80.
80. Okay.
Yeah, I was on a Husqvarna 390. It was pretty underpowered. We had to race against the Honda 480s and the Mako 490s, the Yamaha 465s. But yeah, I crashed pretty good on the first lap at Millville, so that whole weekend was pretty shot. But the following year, we ended up at Redbud. I had a 430 Husky that was board and stroked to a 490 and ended up third that weekend overall.
that's what we heard. Yeah. And name that bike again. What was the bike?
Yeah, that was
it red?
It was red.
Oh, was it the burgundy one?
No, it was red.
Was it red?
Yeah, red with the chrome knee area there polished up. Yeah, it was a good bike.
The Husqvarna? Well, cool. Well, yeah. Hey, let me go through a couple things I want to just mention, and I think Matt has got like a whole string of questions for you, and then move on to Jeff. But a couple things I wanted to say. You know, Doc is, like I say, we've known you guys and watched you guys. My kids have watched, Jeff race and stuff. But, I want to say something. Please don't take this the wrong way, and hopefully nobody else does either. But Doc is the first and last person you want to meet. And first person you want to meet is because at the track, he is always the first person to shake your hand and talk to you and, stop in the middle of wrenching on something. And that's probably why Jeff finds a few bolts loose, because I'm over there talking on in Doc's ears. So he's probably not he's have to make sure everything's all done after I get done talking with him. And but you always it's always great to see you guys at the track. And I think we talked just a little bit before we started there about the couple pictures. It's always a great scene. You and Jeff on the back of a motorcycle heading for the gates, or pictures of you out there wrenching out there and doing a lot of stuff on the bike. So as a family, my family is used to seeing that. As you guys as a family out there racing, so it's a great inspiration for us to see that. And then the second thing, the last person you want to see, and for people that don't know, you are Dr. Walker. So the last person you want to see is Dr. Walker in the emergency room, which is where you don't want to be. So you definitely don't want to see Doc Walker on there. And with that being said, I'd be amiss with some recent things have happened to our family too. To thank you for being in the front lines, being at the hospital, and working through this sort of a really rough time for the last 3 months. We appreciate you going out there and risking your life. You're risking your life more than what Jeff is out there racing. So please pass on to the people that you're working with, that you see every day, and plus thanks from us and our family and all that kind of stuff too, that for out there helping us get through this medical situation that we have.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Strange times for sure, and we'll get through this, and we'll be stronger on the other side of it. But yeah, it is very, very odd time we're going through right now. I don't think anybody could have anticipated this 3 or 4 months ago. It's very weird.
Paul, where did you grow up? How did you get kind of into racing, and what was your start with that?
I grew up in Toledo, and my dad worked at Champion Spark Plug Company. He was an engineer. And his department was tasked with finding the right heat range spark plug for anything that had an engine. I mean, everything from snow blowers and chainsaws to Boss 302 Mustangs, snowmobiles, motorcycles. So whenever anything interesting showed up in his shop, he would bring it home. And it was 1969, Honda came out with the Mini Trail 50. And so they gave one to Champion to dyno and get figured out the spark plug heat range. So he brought that home for the summer of '69. And my older brother and I, we tested that thing in the backyard every day for the whole summer. And that's how we got bit by the bug.
You weren't overly kind to it. Is that the sense I get from you there, Paul?
Those things are indestructible. Indestructible. You can't break them. I have one right now in my garage that I ride a little bit, and you can't break them. And from there, my older brother, he was 3 years older than me. We went to Whitmer High School. There's 1,000 people in each class, so you were going to find some other people who raced, and he did. He found Jeff Greenberg, a local pro, who kind of showed us the ropes, got us into it. And from there on, it was racing and riding every weekend with all the local Toledo people. There was a lot of fast people in Toledo between Whitmer High School and Bedford and Rogers. They had dozens of fast guys, a lot of local pros.
Well, that's Marty can probably interject too, but that's one of the main reasons we started this thing, because we started identifying, guys like you and Jeff Greenberg and Piasecki's and, all the names that, Glenn's and, all them guys. And you guys kind of paved the way for the future, like that young man sitting next to you. And, Toledo, Northwest Ohio is just filled with fast racers and, guys that did really, really well, so hats off to you all.
You know the Paul Schlegel story. He kind of was the nidus for this whole area between he and Lou Snyder and, the Piaseckis. Those guys, they really did blaze a trail for motocross and off-road riding in Northwest Ohio.
No question. Now, did you focus mainly on motocross? Did you ever ride Hare Scrambles or Enduros or anything?
I did 99% motocross, but in late fall or early spring, sometimes in the winter, there weren't motocross races going on. So I probably did my share, probably 8 or 10 Hare Scrambles, and we had fun.
But I'm gonna just guess that's probably back when they had like 4-hour races. I've heard Ducks used to do a 4-hour Hare Scramble.
Yeah, I've done a 4-hour. Before my time, they did a 6-hour. You hear those stories.
Wow.
Those guys ride 6 hours on their BSA 650s. I don't know. That's when men were men.
Well, the Piasecki's dad, Frank, he won the Jack Pine on a 1952 BSA or something like that on a 500 miles.
Are they in a nursing home now because they can't walk?
Well, I think Frank's actually passed, but he's, that bike is, 300 pounds, with dry weight, just crazy how you got to throw that thing around the woods,
Yeah.
but no, that's really great. So you've had a long history, and are you still riding now, Paul? You get on a bike anymore?
No, once Jeff and his brother Tim could pass me, I stopped riding. I remember very clearly when a little Super Mini went around me on my Honda 450, and I cut the track to get back ahead of him, and he passed me again, and that was the last time I think I rode. It just became a lot to take care of their bikes and getting them ready to race, and at least that's the excuse I give.
Well, you've kind of went from, probably trainer to mechanic, real quick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Trainer, mechanic, driver, cook.
Yeah. You're
no
coach.
Cooking died. No cooking.
No. Does mom do all the cooking for you, Jeff?
Nope.
No.
Me and Bridget.
What's looking back, Paul? Who was probably your biggest competitor around town?
Every year was probably a little different. I mean, I started off on Honda SL70, and I'll tell you who I probably couldn't catch and beat was Rex Bucher. You might know him.
He's a second cousin to me. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd go out to Grand Rapids. They didn't call it a motocross; it was a Scrambles then with a rubber band start. And he had a Yamaha Mini Enduro, and I was on an SL70, so he had that two-stroke power on me. So yeah, so each year was a different guy. I mean, Roddy Schroyer and I raced together quite a bit. But the guy at the Amateur Nationals who was unbeatable was Mark Hinkle out of Michigan. I think he won 2 of the Amateur Nationals I went to. And a real quick story, you'll get a kick out of this. I thought I was pretty hot stuff with my 490 Husky, and I went out to Delta. I didn't race Delta a whole lot the later years, but I went out for a night race and thinking I could just clean up out there. Well, who shows up but Mark Hinkle? And so it was a night race, and it was a forward dropping starting gate, and I happened to know the guy doing the gate. He walked over to me and he said, Mark Hinkle, he's here every Saturday. He wins this thing every week. I'd like to see him get beat. So when the card goes sideways, you count to 2, and I'm going to drop the gate. We'll make sure you get the whole shot. So sure enough, I count 1, 2, I drop the clutch, and I'm heading for this gate, and it's not going down. It went down right when I got there. I must have had a 5 bike length lead going into the first turn, but it only took about a lap and a half for Hinkle to pass me and win. That guy was just unbeatable.
I've heard that name. I probably just throughout the years, but was he? Did he turn pro?
Remarkably, he didn't either. He could have done very well. He was extremely talented, and he and his younger brother Scott, they each won some amateur national titles. They're related to Lisa Aiken, who you probably know, the Michigan women's rider who won Loretta's, 5 times?
Yes, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah. So, yeah, those names stick out, and there's many, many, many others, but a lot of fun guys to ride with.
Was Hinkle a guy that you just hated to get beat by kind of thing, and or was there somebody else that you just, I just can't stand losing to this guy?
I didn't know Mark all that well, and I think he was pretty likable, so it didn't bother me that he beat me too much. But as far as rivals go, I don't know that I really had many rivals, except maybe close friends. You didn't want close friends to be there. But yeah, no one person was really an arch rival. Just whoever lined up on the gate with me, I didn't like to lose.
Yeah.
To anybody.
That seems to be a theme in dirt bike racing.
Yeah,
is
pretty
it?
much.
Nobody really likes to lose too much. You know.
I'm really excited because we've watched Jeff, since in recent years jump through a couple of different brands. So I want to hear from the boss that what's his favorite. What is Doc's favorite bike? What was his favorite bike he's ever raced?
Oh wow! You know what? I rode mini bikes, 100s, 125s, 250s, and opens, and each bike I loved. I had a 100 TM Suzuki that was modified and won the state championship in Ohio, down in Mid-Ohio on that, and I loved that bike. I had an RM125 that was heavily modified, that was unbeatable. Loved that bike. I had a 250 Elsinore Honda that was great, and then of course the Huskies were good too. I had a 390 and a 430 Husky that were good.
And so what years was that you were running the Huskies? The
80 and 81, 80 and 81, yeah.
So being that you're a motocross guy, I come from Pennsylvania, hills of Pennsylvania. And so for me, my first bike was a Husqvarna, which always, for us, was always a great woods bike. It really wasn't thought much of a motocross, at least where we're from. It was always the bike to have for the woods. So you took a Husqvarna that we always thought was woods bike, but actually out there and campaigned a motocross with that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was the CR. It was the motocross version of it. And then, of course, Gary Chaplin and Lou Snyder had the shop in town here that hopped up the engines. And so my 390 was bored to a 420, and then my 430 was bored end stroke to a 490. And then, had crank work and porting and heads and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not sure if they handled as good as the power that they made, but it got to the first turn in a hurry.
Yeah, I say, with me growing up, the Husky brand, the KTM brands, that kind of stuff was always, we always thought of, as motocross, or not motocross, more track, and then the Hondas, of course, and that kind of stuff being more, more of the motocross side of life. So it's great to hear, that, these bikes that are now coming around, and really a lot of them are dominating the motocross scene right now, that actually, is out there, running the Japanese bikes down. So.
Yeah, Husky fell out of favor for a couple decades. They're definitely coming back strong now.
Well, we of course, I'm a Husky guy, so I do have a couple KTMs. I don't know that, other than the kids, I don't know that we do Honda. We leave that for Jeff to use, right? So, but no, they're all great bikes, and I think we talked with Jeff a little bit, Bierbauer, the other day, about the Honda being one of those kind of bikes you jump on and ride. They just seem to be a great bike that just pretty much people get on and comfortable with and ride, whereas the Japanese or the European bikes are a little difficult, sometimes to get used to. So, but it's great to hear. But great. So I took all that conversation. I got Huskies are the best.
That's what you were looking for.
Thanks.
It took us 20 minutes to get there, but we got the Huskies are the best. But no, that's really, really great. Of all your accomplishments, Paul, of racing, do you have a favorite race? Do you have a favorite moto, a day that you thought, this is as fast as I can go?
I don't know that there is, because you're always looking for that perfect lap and you never get it. You want to get through each corner just perfectly, accelerate and shift perfectly, brake the latest time. So I don't think you ever had that perfect lap. That's what I think keeps bringing you back. You want to improve, make every lap better and better and better. Now, the two accomplishments I'm probably most proud of was the Ohio State Championship. It was a really big deal back in the 70s. It was held at Mid-Ohio down in Lexington, which is where they had the USGP, and they had national races. And once a year, they would have the Ohio State Championship. For only 4 classes, 100, 125, 250, and open. 5 classes, they had a 175 class. So there was no ABCD or anything, just the Ohio's best would show up, and I was fortunate enough to win that in 75. And then the Redbud thing that we talked about, the Amateur National was a good weekend as well. It took four decent motos. I don't know that I was the 3rd fastest guy there that weekend, but you had to have 4 consistent motos to do it. So that was a proud weekend.
Cool. Did you race against Bob Taylor?
No, Bob was probably 8 or 9 years older than me. Okay. And if I saw him ride several times, and I'll tell you what, he was Ohio's fastest. That guy was so talented on a dirt bike. I remember watching him down at Marion County Raceway down in Monroe, Ohio, and he let everybody take off from the gate on it was a Husky, 360 or something, and gave them all, several second head start. It took him 1 lap to pass everybody. I don't know, he may have lapped everybody. And he turned pro and did quite well.
Yeah, I've heard that. My dad's, my dad was a few years ahead of him at Springfield. And I don't know, it was probably early 90s. They did some kind of riding trip down at Wayne National Forest. And my dad said that, at the end of the 3 days they were riding, they came back and Bob had 2 less miles on his odometer than everybody else. It's because he was wheeling the whole time.
I totally believe that. He won the open class championship down in Mid-Ohio, the state championship, a year or two before I was down there. He was a superstar in Ohio. He rode for Piasekis, and he was an amazing guy.
Yeah, I've heard many old Stumpy. Everybody knows Stumpy.
Oh yeah.
He'd always tell those stories too. God rest his soul. I know we just lost him, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he just passed away. I think early part of this year, somewhere around there, 2020. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but
No.
I'm sure the internet will correct us. For sure. So, but do you got anything else, Marty, for Paul before we jump to Jeff?
No. Just thanks for bringing up a young man, in the way you have. Very, very diplomatic, very personable, very kind. I don't know all the words it is, but he's one of a very good example I know for my kids and the community out there. And gosh, man, we've been able to. It really has even been a little bit better because we got to watch him doing his YouTube channel and get to see some of the cool things that he's been doing. So it's been a really great honor to be able to have him come at our track and ride and seeing him out there, and also everybody from the little kid, my little grandkids knows who he is, and he chats with them and talks to them when he's there, and they all excited to see Jeff and his videos.
Start off with these questions, and this came from one of your biggest fans, probably besides your parents, but Dustin Wyckoff, who is in the Toledo Trail Riders Club. His dad called me yesterday, maybe it was Monday, and he says, "Hey, Dustin just loves Jeff. He watches all his YouTube channel and the videos, and just you can't get enough Jeff Walker." And he said, "Do you think he could ask him a few questions?" I said, "That's perfect. That's perfect. Why not? And so anyway, Dustin wants to know, what kind of bike do you have the most fun riding on?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dustin, for all the support. Really appreciate you tuning into the videos and reaching out and asking some questions. That's always really cool to hear. But as far as the race bike side of things go, I'm definitely a 450 guy. Really like riding the 450, having that extra power. I tend to be like a smoother rider, and just the fact that I'm so tall and a little bit on the heavier side. I've always found the 250s to be a little bit slower than my taste. They are really fun to whip around because they're so light and you can just rev them to the moon, but I always have the most fun on a 450 for sure. I like that extra power, just the ability to get a huge jump like Laraco's Leap or wheelie through a gnarly sand whoop section or something like that. So I'm definitely a 450 guy, but I don't think I have more fun than I've ever had on an XLR 70 in our side yard, just ripping around on the pit bike track. I think that's when I have the most fun, to be honest. But yeah, I'm definitely a 450 guy over 250.
Gotcha.
Well, Jeff, you'd never know that at our track, because I swear he goes faster on the 250 than he does the 450. But it might be the tightness of the track, because he's just at warp speed no matter what bike he rides. So I can say it looks like he's going faster on the 250.
It sounds faster because I got that thing just banging off the rev limiter, but I think the 450 is a little bit smoother.
Okay, question 2 from Dustin. What is the hardest decision you have made in your professional career?
That's a pretty tough one, honestly.
That's a deep one. When I saw it, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, motocross is such a tough sport. Every decision is pretty hard, but I think it's probably, being a couple years ago, the 2015 season was like the first season where I really, I was out of high school at the time. I took 1 year off after high school to really put in a lot of training and a lot of effort into the 2015 outdoor season, because I kind of felt like that was like my one chance that I was getting to go out and chase this dream that I had. I did some okay results in the amateurs the year before, and I was like, all right, this is my one shot. My parents are letting me put off a year before college. I'm going to train as hard as I can, come out swinging at the nationals, and we'll just see what happens. And so spent all winter training super hard down in Georgia. Had some really good buddies to train with, a really good trainer, Club 57, Brad Jerominski. He's an awesome guy, and put in so much work. We got a good race bike built. Drove out to California 2 weeks before Hangtown for the opening round, and rode maybe 3 or 4 times out there. He drove out there with me, but had to fly home early to work, and then he was going to come back out And just a couple days after he flew home, I didn't even crash. I just kind of put my knee out wrong in a corner, and it caught in a rut. And I've had some pretty bad knee issues when I was younger with this knee. I've had a couple ACL and meniscus replacements. And I definitely knew something was wrong immediately when it happened. Got on the phone with him, had a really long talk about it, and decided to come back home and let that heal up instead of going after that season. So that was a really tough one. I really wanted to just, drive through the pain and kind of ride it out, because I felt like that was going to be my one shot before I went off to school. But obviously it wasn't my only shot. I'm still here racing. So right. In that moment, it felt like it was kind of the end of my racing career. And that was a pretty tough pill to swallow. So I'd say, yeah, that's probably definitely the toughest decision I've had to make, but obviously it worked out in the end.
So with that being said, with some knee issues, what do you use to protect that knee or both knees? Is there anything that you found that's been pretty good to be able to help protect that knee and allow you to ride?
Yeah, so I really trust Mobius knee braces. I've been using them for quite a long time, and that was I initially hurt my knee when I was 7 years old on a KX65 or maybe a KTM 65, and at the time I didn't even wear knee braces. So I think that's the main thing that I'm doing. Obviously, I've been wearing knee braces ever since then, investing in some really good ones. I know they can be a bit pricey, but you can't really put a price on healthy knees. You're going to spend a lot more on an ACL replacement than you are on a set of knee braces. But apart from that, I also found that strength conditioning, doing a lot of lower body and core exercises, really helping strengthen the muscles around those tendons and ligaments in your knee can really help prevent injury there. So definitely, my knee has been through some tough stuff. So I really focus on strengthening my legs, doing a lot of squats and deadlifts and stuff just to make sure that all those muscles are strong and not putting too much stress on my knee.
I think, the other day, I think I texted you and you were out riding mountain bikes. So road bikes, mountain bikes, doing that kind of training?
Yeah, a lot of miles on a road bike. I get out on the mountain bike because he likes to come out with me and play around in the trails. We got him out on an e-mountain bike the other day, so he was kicking my butt on that. So yeah, that's a fun way. The biggest thing I think is doing some moderate weightlifting, strengthen the bones and promote like good joint health. So I do a lot of weightlifting. I took some strength training courses in high school that kind of kickstarted that for me. And that really showed me the value in it because I just realized how much better my knees were feeling after I started that. So a lot of strength training, a lot of cycling, and yeah, it's been pretty decent for the past couple of years. So it's been paying off.
Sounds like a good coach. He's not there to build his strength up. He's there to build you up. So the faster he goes,
he's not here to build me up.
So that e-bike is great for him. He just keeps pushing.
You should hear him giggling when I'm huffing and puffing up the hill behind him, and he's just fifth gear tapped up that
thing. Jeff, how old are you?
24 now.
24. Okay. So I've got about 14 years on you now, but now when you get to the vet class, right? So you don't have to worry about that. So now the training regimen, just give you some forward thinking advice here. So, when you get a family and you're too busy to train, you can go and eat ice cream and do all kinds of other things. Because my theory is this now. Now listen, so you get a little belly on you, you weight the bike down, you get more traction. That's my theory. Lower your center of gravity, a little more traction. I don't know.
I don't think I'll try it this season, but maybe in the future I'll give it a go.
Yeah. No, you keep mountain biking. While you're mountain biking, I'm gonna head to the ice cream store. But
all right.
I'm with Doc. I got an e-bike, so I'm good.
Well, Matt, I don't know. You got a couple little ones riding now. You're going to have to stay fit.
Well, I appreciate that. Number one, we were out in the yard the other day, messing around, and Vincent, my youngest, he's on a PW50, and he went from literally crying when we first started to I couldn't get him off. He did probably 50 laps around the bike, around the back part of the property here, and thank God we live on 5 acres. We can do that kind of thing now. And, I heard my oldest son yelling out to him, "Hold it wide open." And I'm like, stop. He's not ready for that yet. Let's not do that. But, no, it's a lot of fun watching them ride. And somebody made a comment. I think you guys were talking about it earlier with Paul, when you said Jeff passed you and started beating you, and you said, that's, you're going to be a mechanic. So somebody posted on my Facebook, they said, well, it won't be long. They'll be both beating you with, at the family Enduros. I said, not with both my legs blocking them. No, that day is going to come. I know when I beat my dad finally, that was a huge deal. And I think every son,
I'm sure he was proud, just like you'll be proud one day.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, last question for you from Dustin. What would you say to kids that dream of being a pro racer?
I mean, there's no dream too big, When I was a kid, I don't know how old Dustin is, but I never started to actually show any sort of potential until I was like probably 14 or 15 years old on a 250. I mean, when I was on a little bike, and you can ask anyone around this area, and they'll tell you there's no way in heck that they thought I would ever race professionally, or even make it to Loretta's, or even make it into the A class or B class at a local race. I was back of the pack, 85C class, getting lapped at local races on the regular. I just had more fun riding the pit bike around in the yard. I didn't really care so much about racing until finally one day I realized how much I loved racing, and I was like, well, I'm just going to put my head down, train as hard as I can, just devote my life to it pretty much. And, at the end of the day, if I don't make it, I can at least say I gave it everything. So and I mean, it's not an easy road for sure. You have to, give up some life things. Like I definitely didn't have the typical teenage years. I didn't go out and party, or, I missed out on a lot of hanging out with my friends and stuff like that, because I just had the motivation and drive to, achieve those goals. So anyone can do it as long as you're willing to put in the work, and don't listen to anyone who says that you can't do it. I've had plenty of people tell me that would never happen, teachers, friends, just anyone. So yeah, believe in yourself. If you want to do something, you can do literally anything that you want to. You just got to have the motivation and desire and put the work in. And, I haven't regretted 1 minute of missing out on any of those teenage year experiences. The first time you qualify for your pro national, all that stuff is just right out the window. And it's all worth it.
It's all worth it. I think the words I'm hearing is sacrifice, fun, support. I told my cousin once, I said, well, heck, I'm sorry, I missed 2/3 of your weddings, from racing, but, we were, I think we had to, there was 2 GNCCs that, the 2 of the 3 weekends he got married, and that's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, so no, it's really nice to see. And that guy that's sitting next to you, to your right, our left, I suppose mom and dad have a big hand in that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too, is, you have to put all that hard work in, but also make sure you're, keeping up on the things that you need to keep up on. I mean, he always told me as long as I maintained A's and didn't get into any trouble, he was happy to support me through all that racing and stuff. So yeah, I mean, like I said, you can do anything you want to, just make sure that you're not making this guy mad, and you're putting in the work. So yeah.
Jeff, I got a question for you. You said, so I'm just wondering how you're still racing, because your dad said that you were a great kid. You were a troublemaker, and he always keep on top of you.
I don't know where you're getting that information from.
I know. Yeah, wrong. Totally wrong. I said,
it's the internet.
That's why. Yeah. Can you go out and ride, whether it be a trail or just on a track, for fun?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it depends the group of people I'm with. If I'm with a bunch of other pro racers, unless I'm the fastest one in the group, then I'm having a blast. But if I go out with just a bunch of my friends who, I mean, just while I was out in California, I got to ride with a couple, retired guys who still had skill and could still go pretty good, but we weren't like directly competing head on. And we actually went up into the mountains pretty much exactly the picture that's behind you. We put the GoPro on and just went out exploring in the mountains and had some fun. And yeah, I mean, I don't think it was the most fun I've ever had, but it was definitely a really good time. I think most of my fun comes from winning motos and crushing the competition, but that was definitely a great time. And, you know, once I'm done racing professionally, I think that'll be something that I really look forward to.
Well, good, because that way, if you come ride with me, you're going to have lots of fun because you'll always be in front. So you'll never have to worry about me passing you. But, you know, just real quick, let me make a comment about the picture. You talked about the picture. That's out in Penrose, Colorado. Guy R., military gentleman out there in the military, sent me that picture to show. So the pretty cool picture out there. For me, that just, you know, I'm not the biggest motocross guy in the world. So this here is what puts, you know, the cold chills and, you know, the feeling in, you know, my hair on the back of my neck, you know, stands up when I get to see a picture like this. So this is just one of many, and we've got some more good pictures coming out. But yeah, definitely. And one of these days, we are going to get you and your dad out to Arizona to ride some of the trails with us out there.
Absolutely. I never used to see the appeal to it. Like when I was growing up and, you know, chasing the pro motocross, a bunch of my friends would ask me like, hey dude, we're going up into northern Michigan. You want to come trail ride with us? Or we're going to the dunes or whatever. And I was like, man, I want to go fifth gear wide open on a track, hitting some big jumps and throwing whips and stuff. I don't want to do trail riding. But then, like I said, when I was out in California and we actually went and did it, my mind was blown. I mean, there was a pretty moderate hill climb that was a little bit sandy. I mean, I'm sure there's way gnarlier ones out there. And I looked at it and I was like, there is no way we're making it up this thing. And we were all just stoked, like, you know, high-fiving, fist bumping each other. And yeah, I mean, I see the appeal to it now for sure. It's a good time. It is
definitely a different ride. I mean, your mindset, you know, like, of course, I'm getting old, so I can't ride more than 10 minutes anyway without taking a rest and having something to drink. But no, it is a definitely right. You know, you're out there for 30 minutes, whatever, going full tilt on the track. And we're out there for about 10 minutes, and then we stop, take some pictures, and have to rest before we go 10 minutes more. But no, it is one of those totally different type of riding, and you have to wrap your mind around it that you're there to enjoy it, enjoy the, you know, scenery, the animals, whatever it might be out there. So it definitely is too. But anyway, I'll take it back over to Matt and see what other great questions he's got. And then I've got a couple that's going to be pretty intense, I think.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So Jeff, what are you currently doing? What is this COVID-19? How is this shaking up your life? I understand you're in college now. Is that still the case, or are you kind of taking a break from that, or what's your current status?
So I actually just finished up my 4 years of pre-med undergrad down at Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, Florida. So finished up, graduated in the fall of 2019, came back home, and I picked up a ride on a new team that was formed for the pro racing series. So once I got back home, hung out for a little bit. In February, I went out to California, like I said, because that's where the team was based out of. So just was doing a lot of training, getting ready for the upcoming season. Then with this whole COVID thing kind of hit the moto industry. I mean, every industry, of course, but the way it affected me was hitting the moto industry, and just decided that I wanted to come home and kind of do things my own way again, just so I knew, you know, what equipment and everything I was going to be on, and could, you know, put my own program together. So graduated college, like I said, going to be taking the MCAT eventually, you know, once this moto thing rides out, and then going to med school. But for right now, I'm just training really hard, making a lot of YouTube video content, doing some cool bike builds with my girlfriend, and yeah, just kind of showing the world what the privateer grind is like, going through the Pro National Series, all the training, all the mechanic work, all the traveling, all that stuff that's involved. So yeah, that's what I'm up to right now.
So once you start med school, that's it, right? You're 100% dialed into that.
I'd like to be the first medical student to ever qualify for a Pro National. So I think that one is something I'm trying to check the box. So I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say. You know, I don't ever see myself quitting racing dirt bikes. I'm going to do it for as long as I can, and as long as I can stay competitive. So once I get into med school, if I can still qualify for Pro Nationals, you bet I'm going to be out there riding still. So probably the year I can't qualify is probably the year I'll call it. But until that happens, we're just going to be out there ripping, med school or not.
Well, somebody told me one time, you know, when I started having children and real job and life hits you, right? Somebody said, don't ever sell your bike. Whether you ride it or not, keep a bike in the garage, because there's going to be someday that your buddy's going to call, or maybe it's your dad, or maybe it's Marty, and they call you and say, let's just go ride. And it doesn't have to be an outdoor national track, or it could be just ripping around somebody's backyard, but always keep a bike. And because you always, if you get rid of it, it's a good excuse to not get another one. But if you have it, you got it.
Well, it's good for your mental health to walk out in the garage and have a bike to look at too. Even if you don't ride it. I kept a bike in the garage for many years after I stopped riding. It was just nice to know it was there in case you wanted to go ride it.
In case. Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing to have. I mean, I don't ride that nearly as much as I want to. I think everybody can say that, but I know I got the bike in the garage and I can go hop on it and go ride with some club guys, or go over to the state forest, or whatever I want to do. I can load it up and go, and it's a good thing to have. So just some friendly advice for you there, Jeff, as you kind of navigate your future. So don't get rid of your bikes, always have one.
I think that's some great advice right there. And it's funny you say that, because I have a lot of friends who I used to race with, grew up racing with and everything, and I haven't seen them on a dirt bike in years. But every time I hit them up and I'm like, hey, you want to go ride? They're like, man, I still do have my bike. Like, I could do it. But yeah, that's some good advice. I think I'll probably hang on to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Marty, what do you got for Jeff?
Well, first of all, tomorrow sometime, if you want to swing by and make that same comment to my wife, that would be perfect for you. One's good, two's great or good, 3 or 4 is better, and 5 or 6 is even best. But so
you're talking
Jeff,
number of motorcycles, not wives, right?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I've only got one. I can't find anybody else that'll have me, so I got to keep her. So
you better keep Lori around.
Keep Lori around, absolutely. So Jeff, I know you've been at our track, and you've been. I've seen you've been filming and stuff. So tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel, and I know I've been watching everything. Your YouTube channel. So it's everything from testing brand new bikes to pieces and parts. I know you and your dad was over playing with I think some motor mounts one day, and I think at our track. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, a little bit more in detail on your podcast, that guys and gals are out there watching what you're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it started, actually. I think it was 2018, my birthday. I asked for a GoPro for my birthday. And so I got this GoPro Hero 7 that I had no idea how to use. But like my whole life growing up, it was always me and this guy and my older brother going to the track together. There was never a time where I was riding and he wasn't with me. So it was kind of weird when I went away to college. I was like 1,000 miles away from him. Like I said, I went to college in Florida. And once I finally got a bike down there and started riding again, he was just, begging me every time I went riding. Hey, send me some videos. How's it going? How's the bike? How's the track? It's all this stuff. So finally told him, you know what? I'll get a GoPro. I'll start uploading a few videos to YouTube just so keep this guy entertained and let him know how my day is going. So started off just uploading a couple raw GoPro videos, just me riding at some tracks down there. And I think I was pretty fortunate that Florida Tracks and Trail was so close by, because that was like one of the tracks that I went to a lot. And a lot of people were really interested in that track. So those videos just kind of took off and got like hundreds of thousands of views somehow. And people were just starting to hit me up begging for more and more. So I was like, shoot, okay, it's easy enough. Just put the GoPro on and go ride and say a couple words and, keep the people happy, basically. So that's kind of how it all started, was just trying to keep this guy in the loop about what I was doing down in Florida while I was riding. And then it just kind of spiraled into this crazy thing that it's turned into now. But yeah, the main thing is I'm just trying to show people, like I said, what it's like to be a privateer, grinding out the training, help people see like how gnarly it is to do the pro nationals and everything. Cause I feel like a lot of people know how gnarly it is, but they don't really know until they see it, up close. So kind of trying to spread awareness for that. But yeah, I do a lot of bike testing. Every time I get a new bike, I take it out, give like first impressions. Like you said, motor mounts. We did some titanium motor mount testing, Boyson super cooler testing, just casual ride days, training days, and then just some everyday vlog stuff too, where I just, take the camera out and show the people what I'm doing that day. So it's a lot of cool stuff. If you're into dirt bikes, I mean, a lot of people seem to like it. So as long as people are still watching it, I'm going to keep on doing it, and see where it goes from there.
I think is great about Jeff. You're not getting paid by a lot of these bike manufacturers and to say that their bike is the best or what it may be. So that's one thing. It's nice is that when you say this part works, in other words, you're not out there getting a lot of cash to promote something that may not be the best for the guy that's out there not professionally racing even. So that's one nice thing about that.
Wait a minute.
On your YouTube,
you're saying that's a good thing that he's not getting paid for that?
Well, it's a good thing for me because we're getting the real story, so what we can do, but it's not a good thing for him. I mean, it would be great if he was getting paid and Dad didn't have to promote or have to pay for all this stuff. You know how that goes. But now, just picking on you there. But no, so your YouTube channel, you've got a lot of content going, which, like I said, which is great to see you putting on some parts, putting on some things like that we as just the right, rider, maybe not a racer, maybe a weekend warrior type thing that can try and put on, which is great. We pretty much, when you say, hey, this works and this is how it works, we're getting the straight story. So that's pretty good. I did see, I think you did mention, I think on one of your blogs that you've now got a race shop that you're actually working out of. How's that working out for you?
Yeah, it's been great, honestly. I mean, like I said, I've never been much of a mechanic guy. He's pretty much always done the work for me. But once I moved away to college, I kind of had to learn how to do all that stuff by myself. But I've never really had a good space to do it in. So it's crazy how just having the right space to do the bike work in makes it so much more enjoyable. Like, I hated bike work. I hated going out and changing the oil because I had just a little cramped, one car garage to do it in, and I had bicycles and grills and all sorts of stuff out there, and it just made it not very enjoyable. So my girlfriend's parents actually had a barn sitting out behind their house that wasn't being used, and they offered it up for me to kind of base operations out of. And it's just opened up this whole world of bike work to me. Like, it's actually enjoyable just to go out there, stare at my bike for a couple minutes and just be like, what can I do to this thing today? Well, what are we going to work on today? Let's make it a little bit better. So it's been great. I love having that space. And we also put a little gym in there. So especially during this whole quarantine thing where gyms are all shut down and we're not really supposed to go on road bike rides and stuff, just go over to the race shop, bust out some sets of squats and bench press and stuff, and then stare at my dirt bikes and drool over them. So it's been great. I'm loving it.
That's great. Yeah, actually, I know for me too, it's I used to wrench on them a lot more when I was younger and haven't wrenched on them as much in the later years. But, putting together a shop too, it's enjoyable for me. I go out and, play with the bike, do whatever, we want to do. And it's in a good, good area. I can leave it apart if I need to. I don't have to clean it back up and get it ready for something else to come in until I get my parts or whatever. So now, You've tried a number of different bikes. I know you've been out there. We've seen you on some Huskies. We've seen you on Hondas, and I don't know if I think there's some KTM's in the way there too. I think, didn't you ride some KTM some point in time?
Yeah, 2014 had a KTM 450. Yep.
Yeah. So I remember some of those. You were telling me, I think today, that you've got a 2-stroke you're playing around with. That's sort of fun. So you're a Honda guy. And you're riding Hondas, and you think you'll ever change?
I mean, I kind of got into the Hondas just by, family precedent, basically. When I was on my PW50, he was riding a Honda 450, and then my older brother, he was always riding the XR80 around, and then when it was time for him to get on big bikes, he got a Honda 250, a Honda 450, so that's just kind of the shoes that I went into. But obviously love the Hondas a lot, and just never really had the opportunity to ride anything else. It was pretty much all I knew, so I just stayed with it. But just recently, I had the opportunity to do a 450 shootout where we took all the stock bikes out for a couple ride days and got to ride all of them back to back. And my mind is just blown at how good every single bike is. You know, I thought the Honda was the best because that's what I was the most comfortable on. But just with the technology and everything nowadays, all the bikes are super good. So I wouldn't be opposed to trying out another brand or anything, but I think at this point it just comes down to the parts that I have amassed for the Honda. I mean, it's so easy to just pick up another Honda and put all my old parts on it because I just have stacks of them out there. But I wouldn't be opposed to trying out another bike. I know you're really pushing those Austrian bikes on me.
Not that they're the best or anything, but yeah, they are the best. But no, like I say again, it's one of those like to ride. But you know, there's eBay and Marketplace, and you know, you put those parts on there, and I'm sure you could get right rid of those Honda parts. And you know, I'm sure there's a couple of guys out there that would like to have a Jeff Walker 450 Honda. So I'm sure you could probably even sell that. And you know, I'm thinking, you know, I think we talked today, maybe some Gas or Sherco, or you know, just go off the wall and grab something, you know, a little different for us. So, but I'm sure that if you're going to have anything new going on, any good set, you're going to have a vlog, I guess it is. So with your great term, I'm old, so you know, it's one of those things on TV. I don't know what they are, but
I think it makes you a better rider, you know, trying out some other brands too. Like I said, I've just been so comfortable on Hondas that I just kind of learned that's, you know, I just learned how to ride one bike, and then hopping on another bike, it definitely diversifies you, makes you learn how to, you know, apply some, like maybe if I ride a KTM and I like how the power delivery is, then I can bring that back to my bike and maybe tune the ECU a little bit different to smooth it out or something. Or maybe I like how the front suspension feels on a Yamaha, so then I try and replicate that on my own bike. So I really like riding other bikes. It definitely makes you a better rider all around, I think. I try and ride as many different kinds of bikes as possible now.
Well, it probably, you know, you probably ask your dad. I say back in the 80s and you know, really the late 70s and 80s when I was you know, getting the age to be able to ride better bikes. But you know, we always used to switch between two-stroke and four-stroke, and back then a two-stroke and a four-stroke was two different bikes. So I'm not sure if Doc got the chance to ride both, but you know, yeah, that made you an interesting rider when you were able to jump on a two-stroke and then jump off and get on a four-stroke, because like I say, they were such a totally two different you know, bikes to ride.
Yeah, and I think Jeff will have the opportunity to do. He's got a nice Project 250 Honda, CR250 two-stroke Honda that he's finishing up on. I think it'll be real fun to see how that goes on a track, because it's got some modern suspension that's been redone by Race Tech, and the motor that's been built, and I think it's gonna surprise him with what kind of lap times he can do on it.
Yeah, never ridden a 250 two-stroke before, so I'm interested to see how it compares up to my 450.
What, Doc, what do you think that, because yeah, everybody's going to these CRs. I mean, everybody you hear about, they're doing project bikes and they've got them. What do you think is making people go back to these older CR250s and want them?
Well, I think the Red Bull straight rhythm piqued a lot of people's interest. I think that's kind of what got, you see Cole Seeley doing the builds, and I think that's kind of what got Jeff into it a little bit. I think there's always been the diehard old school fans that have had two strokes. There's always that age-old argument, two versus four-stroke. And I think as the vet riders get older, they want to revisit some of their childhood nostalgia. So I think a lot of them turning back to two strokes. And now, you know, the new fuel-injected two strokes are so reliable and so maintenance-free. And when they do need maintenance, it's just a fraction of the cost of doing a four-stroke. So I definitely see the appeal of having a two-stroke in your garage.
Yeah, I guess it's like Ford and Chevy having retro cars. You know, they're bringing back some of the good old stuff that, or sort of trying to bring back some of the good old stuff that they have. So I only got a couple more quick questions for you, then I'll turn it back over to Matt. But, you know, seeing your bikes, I said I was looking through some pictures before you there, just to be able to throw out some names for you. I did CPR on your bike. Can you tell me who CPR is?
Yeah, so that's Championship Power Sports Racing. They've been it's a shop in Waseon, Ohio. So if you're around the Toledo area, you've probably definitely heard of them. Jim and Lonnie and those guys over there are just a really great group of people. And we've been riding with those guys for, since I can remember. Their son, Greg Dervaj, is a local pro. Just kind of recently hung up the boots and moved on with his career in the financial planning thing, but he was always someone that I really looked up to while I was racing. He was kind of more my older brother's age, but he was always like the fastest dude around here when I was racing. So always looked up to him, and then their family is just a really great group of people. We've been dealing with them forever. So yeah, they've been helping us out a lot. They're the people that I trust to do all my motor work, take care of us, and they're a great group of people over there.
And I see Alpine Star on your shirt. I think last time I was talking to you, you were sporting a new helmet. I think we were talking to a couple of young ones that was looking for a helmet. I think actually it was Redbud, I believe. It might have been one of the races that you were talking to some people that I think you were doing some signing and stuff at Redbud down at the championship trailer. And you were pretty impressed on the Alpine Star stuff, still wearing the Alpine helmet, boots.
Yeah, like I said before, there's no price you can put on protection. And to me, Alpine Star is the pinnacle of protection in motocross. You want to make sure you've got the best helmet, got the best braces, got the best gear, the boots. And for me, that's always been Alpine Stars. And just this past year, I was fortunate enough to strike up a sponsorship with them. So that's been probably one of my proudest moments in motocross is setting up a sponsorship with them and being able to represent them, not only, racing professionally, but in the YouTube videos and just going out and, signing stuff for kids and stuff like you were saying. So, yeah, Alpine Star has been a great one. Like my dad said, Race Tech has been really great, helping me out with suspension and everything. Really great group of people over there. There's a lot of companies helping us out, and really grateful for all the support.
Walker Enterprises, your number one sponsor.
Yeah, this guy over here.
Yeah. Well, that's great to say. So last thing for me, and then I'll let Matt, finish up. I'm not even sure where we are in time wise, but is there anything that you could release to us that we get we won't tell anybody or anything, but is there anything you want to tell us, what's coming up? Are you're going to race, just tell, you got any secrets you're going to tell us? I mean, we promise we will not tell anybody. Or do we have to wait to your YouTube channel?
We do have some pretty juicy secrets coming up, actually. I don't know if I can tell you, but I'll tell you, you're going to be excited about it. You're going to be very happy about this secret we're going to be dropping here pretty soon.
So we're going to hear it on YouTube.
Yep.
On your channel?
Soon.
Your YouTube channel is, how do we get to that?
If you just type in Jeff Walker MX, or maybe even if you just type in Jeff Walker in the YouTube search, it'll come up. But definitely if you type in Jeff Walker MX or Motocross or something like that, it'll pop up. We've just hit over 100,000 subscribers, so that's really cool. The support's been amazing. Like I said earlier, it's just everything that I've been doing for the past couple of years anyways. So to me, it just seems like such standard stuff, but I guess it's something that people have been missing in the sport. So kind of filling that niche. And yeah, if you're interested in motocross or just trail riding or what it's like to be a privateer going through the pro ranks, head over there and check it out. That would be really cool.
We've got plenty of trail riding bikes over here, so feel free to grab one. We'll get to the park hopefully soon. And again, thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Matt, and thank you for doing all you guys do. We're excited to see you out at our track always, and you're always welcome out there. Matt?
Yeah, so actually, Jeff, you have 105,000 subscribers because the podcast channel just became one of your subscribers today. So I checked that out, and I was like, wow, 105,000 people. That's impressive. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we just started the channel like a year and a half ago, and like I said, it was just to keep him entertained while I was away in school. I never imagined it would turn into what it has, but I'm super grateful for it. It's kind of given me a new purpose to go racing. This is my 5th year of racing professionally. And, once you've done it a couple times and being realistic with myself, I know I'm not, pursuing a full-time racing career. Like I'm not trying to get on factory Honda or anything. I know medical school and that whole thing is my ultimate goal, but this has definitely given me a new purpose to train that little bit extra harder, to, keep going at it even when all my friends are kind of done, and it would be really easy for me to just kind of hang up the boots and move on with life. It's kind of like giving me a new drive. So it's really cool, and I appreciate all the support a lot.
Well, you're our guy. You're T-Town's guy, and we're all rooting for you, for sure. And so all the best of luck to you this season. So what is your, just to kind of just off the cuff questions, what competitor would you say is your biggest, what current racer would you say, I got to beat that guy today?
Current racer, man, that's a tough one. I mean, growing up, like my dad was saying earlier, it was always my best friends who were, my toughest competitors and who I wanted to beat the most. So, people like Jared Williams comes into mind, Josh Osby. Those are the guys that I grew up racing from around here. But then, once you move up into the A class, you get thrown into the field with this whole other group of people who you weren't necessarily riding with before, because, those guys I mentioned were just people in my age group that I kind of grew up racing. But then as soon as you hit the A class, age groups are gone. You kind of just get tossed in with everyone that you've been looking up to. So Greg Dervage that I mentioned before, huge inspiration for me growing up. He's basically what turned me from a C rider into the professional that I am now. So finally, once I got to the A class and he was still racing, he was like a guy that I really wanted to beat really bad, just to kind of confirm that, I made it. So he was always a great competitor. Probably my older brother. I think he quit just before I made it up into that A class. So Tim, if you're watching this, you dodged a bullet, buddy. But yeah, he was always my main competitor too, because there's always competition between brothers, and he was always way faster than me growing up. Like, he would always win the B classes and stuff when I was getting lapped in 85C. So he always gave me a pretty hard time about that, and he's definitely a key to my success, because I always wanted to shut him up and show him that I could go pretty good. So yeah, definitely my best friend.
The little brother trumps the big brother. That's pretty cool.
I never got the chance. He dodged a bullet, but
okay, all right.
He knows.
Yeah, he knows the real story, right? You send him a little picture, hey, just reminding you, I could beat you anytime I want, But
yeah, that's right.
No, I tell you what's, you mentioned Greg. I know Greg real well, but just hearing you guys talk, and you're representing, obviously yourselves and your families, but you're also representing our town, and you guys have done a really great job representing Toledo, Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan, because, I hear countless people say, well, I talked to Jeff Walker, I talked to Greg, or talked to Brock, and you guys are all real approachable, level-headed. And I don't know if that, in your travels, do you see, maybe having the Midwestern roots and values kind of help you out a little bit, in the racing world?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. I mean, I always try and see the best in people. So even if I'm out on the West Coast or whatever, I just look for those good qualities. But it's funny how whenever I mention where I'm from, people are never surprised. They, I guess they kind of get the vibe that we're good people. And so when I mention I'm from the Midwest, they're like, yep, makes sense. So yeah, it's definitely a good place to be, raising kids here. I've never met someone I didn't like racing around here. So it's just a good place to be, I think. And yeah, it's a good place to raise kids and race dirt bikes.
Well, I think we have an opportunity, hopefully with this podcast, is to celebrate that, celebrate guys like you and your dad, and, other locals. We're eventually going to have Greg and his dad, Jim, on, and we want to get Brock, and we want to get some other guys and gals that are around the area on this podcast and tell their stories, and really kind of show how I think the Toledo, Ohio area is very special in the roots that we have here, for sure. As far as tracks and your nationwide quest for the nationals over the last several years, what's the one track that you're like, man, I can't wait for that one. That one's my track.
MX Express.
I would default
on a Husky, right, Marty? You got to throw them both in there. Yeah.
I love MX Express. Obviously, default is Redbud. Everyone loves Redbud, but apart from Redbud, it's true. The tracks around here are the best, and we're definitely spoiled with it. I guess the trade-off there is that we can only ride them for like 4 months out of the year, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, all the legendary tracks that you think of, like Glen Helen, Hangtown, everything like that. I mean, I've been there and ridden them, and every time I come back home is when I'm the happiest. So riding MX Express, riding Log Road, Baja, Redbud, all these tracks around here are far and away my favorite. The dirt, can't beat it. Just having the good promoters, the people running the tracks, just seeing friendly faces. And yeah, it's never a bad time when you're riding at MX Express or Redbud or something like that. So definitely my favorite is around here.
I
Matt,
find it, go ahead.
I spend half the time answering questions off the MX Express page. Is Jeff going to be there tonight? It's so funny. I do. It's like I'm not sure. Your best chances maybe a Tuesday because he's got racing on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday. But it's funny because that's what we do. So many play. Not sure. Watch his blog. Maybe I'll tell you. But it is funny. I mean, it's great because we have such a great people coming around and riding. But it is funny. I answer a lot of not sure's. So maybe you might want to put that on, the webpage when you're going to be at MX Express and when you're not going to be. That way they won't have to ask me.
Well, the answer is almost always yes. I'll be there.
There you go. There you go.
That it's convenient that it's 15 minutes from my house, but I would drive hours to be there. The track.
We appreciate that.
So I would be there no matter what.
Yeah, we really appreciate you running such a family-friendly track that gets rough and is a good practice track and just a fun place to hang out. And this podcast, this Track and Trail podcast, is just a great addition to Northwest Ohio. I can think of dozens of people that I would love to have you guys talk to just to learn more about them myself. An hour of talking to somebody on a podcast, I'm sure I can learn all kinds of new things about people and learn about people that I've really not got a chance to meet.
Said that, Doc, and I'm not from here, so I came in around the 2000 year time. So I came in about the same time that Zero Gravity, that we're at MX Express now, was closing, and so we've got to see some out of Delta. We got to see some of the riders and know some of the riders a little bit. So I don't know all the history. And so, now you start talking to a number of different people and all of a sudden like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know about Delta and the years that many, many people have ridden and, what the history is there or Paul Schlegel. I mean, who would think that he had anything to do with Loretta Lynn's, from Ohio, right. From Toledo,
right.
So it's exciting to hopefully, get some names out there and get some pretty interesting information from, I think Matt and I talked about, I think we're having 4 segments with Paul?
At least 4. Yeah, because I talked to Mr. Schlegel, fairly routinely, and I don't know if you heard this, Jeff, but the club is trying to do this documentary film for Paul, and he's not a spring chicken anymore, and I call him the GOAT promoter. That's kind of I don't know if I coined it for him, but because he is the greatest motorcycle racing promoter probably of all time that nobody has heard about. When you say Paul Schlegel founded or co-founded Loretta Lynn's, everybody's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. So it's we gotta share that story. So if you have any names of anybody that you think would be great to be on the podcast with us, we're Marty and I are certainly trying to track them down. We have about 30, I think, so far names that we've confirmed. We're trying to get some off-road guys in here too. We got Nick Farringer. We talked to him. I talked to Jeff Fredette the other day. He's in. So get some guys that we used to ram around with too. So
yeah, I talked to Gary Chaplin about it. He already told me a good story about Paul Schlegel, so I'm sure he'd be interested in sharing that story with you.
Yeah, and he's out in California, correct?
Yeah, we could do a Zoom. What do you call this? A Zoom podcast? A Zoomcast? Or get
something like that. It's held on Zoom, which is a great hosting site, and we can be all across the world and talk to each other, for sure. And speaking of some of them guys, I know we talked about Jeff Greenberg, and actually I asked him to be on. He said he's good with that. So hopefully get him on.
Extremely interesting. That guy lived and breathed motocross through the 70s and traveled the country with some fascinating people. And Yeah, to this day, he's still very involved peripherally.
He mountain bikes more than I do, that's for sure.
I see that on his Instagram, and unfortunately, with the sad news of Marty Smith passing away, Jeff was actually trying to get me connected with Marty Smith because we were hoping to get Marty Smith involved with this documentary film, and it's just, the whole thing is just so tragic, obviously. But I don't. Did you ever get to meet Marty in your
never met
travels?
him? But he was my superhero. That guy. We all wanted to corner like Marty did.
I think he was everybody's superhero. I hear that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
I wasn't old enough to appreciate that. I wish I got to know some of those guys more, but it's definitely sad to see that.
Anybody named Marty's got to be good.
But he was not on a Husky, Marty, so
that's okay. I'll tell you, there's exceptions.
I believe that was a Honda there, actually.
That's okay. We have to diversify a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a valuable lesson, and we just gotta, with the pandemic, and you get a guy like that, that some tragic thing happens. I think it's a refresher that we just all need to enjoy each day, I think.
Yeah, tomorrow's not guaranteed. It's a cliche, but so true.
Thank you again. I really appreciate it. I just, like I say, when we pulled up names to have, to come on board, it's like, we've got to have Doc and Jeff both, because I say just one of those fantastic families out there that are racing and have made a very good advancements in racing and having a team and being, privateer but still, having that great family atmosphere, doing it together as a family. Because I've seen your mom out there a lot of times when your dad's not there. So she's keeping an eye on you too. So, there's always somebody watching what's going on out there. So. Thank you very much, and we really feel honored and privileged that you guys come on and look forward to to seeing you out at the track and anything we do to help you.
We really appreciate you doing this. I'm looking forward to seeing future episodes. It's going to be really interesting to have Northwest Ohio represented. It's great.
I agree. It's a blast coming on here. I love doing this type of stuff. So thanks for having us. Thanks for always keeping the track really awesome for us to ride. And yeah, I'm looking forward to coming out there and riding as soon as this whole pandemic is over with. Can't wait.
Cool. Well, make sure exclusives. We want exclusives here.
All right.
We just got to worry about the editor getting it out into the interwebs quick. I'm the editor guy, so I got to hustle on that. But
I was just gonna say, I know the editing grind. I feel for you.
Oh yeah. But on behalf of Marty Wheeler, I'm Matt Bucher. Thanks again, Paul and Jeff Walker, for joining us tonight. It was great to learn more about you guys. This was the conclusion of episode number 3 of the Toledo Track and Trail podcast.